any driver in a big city about their biggest headaches, and parking has got to be high on the list. A number of technology companies are trying to change that, but some are landing in the crosshairs of controversy, and Boston is the latest example. An app maker introduced an app allowing users to get cash for swapping out parking spaces with other users. It says it's selling information, not property. Boston City Council sees it differently and passed an ordinance that effectively bans it. Some are calling that a bad precedent. Mary Snow has more.
Parking in my neighborhood is tough, and I know the street spot I have right now is in high demand.
App developer Haystack sees dollar signs on city streets. Use its app to alert drivers you're leaving a parking spot and get $3 to hold it for another Haystack user. Haystack gets 75 cents of that. The company recently introduced the app to Boston after launching it in Baltimore in June. But Boston put the brakes on Haystack and others like it, saying parking spots are on public space and private individuals can't sell, lease, or reserve public space. In June, San Francisco issued a cease and desist order to monkey parking. San Francisco drivers also face a $300 fine for violating the city's order. Startups Switch and Parkmoto were also told not to operate. One urban planning expert says cities only have themselves to blame.
Can you think of any other public asset that is so mismanaged and just left to take care of itself? And that's why these app developers come in and try to take advantage of this mismanagement.
Professor Donald Shoup faults cities for not charging more on metered streets during peak demand, which he says would make more spaces available. He says that extra money could be invested in city services.
Cities ought to think the way an app developer thinks and say, how could I use this new technology to finance better public services on the metered blocks?
One thing seems certain, there's opportunity in parking. Mary Snow, Al Jazeera.
The apps in Boston and San Francisco focus on users swapping out parking spaces, but there are a number of other companies around the country using technology that helps drivers pay for parking or help them find spots. The situation with parking apps in Boston raises a question of public property versus intellectual property, and we're getting both sides of the story tonight. We're going to start with Eric Meyer. He's the founder and CEO of Haystack Mobile Technologies, which has now suspended services in Boston. So, Eric, you say it's information. The city says you're selling the public spot, but you are profiting off of something that we all have the right to park, right?
Well, what Haystack simply is it's a social parking community that allows neighbors to exchange information, and neighbors have every right to exchange that information. And if we can be a platform that helps make this nightmare, this inefficient system, a little bit more efficient, then that's a good thing for those individuals and for those cities.
Critics say that you're going to create an inherently unfair system. I mean, what if you don't have a smartphone? What if your battery ran out? I mean, you talk about neighbors exchanging information, but what if, people start driving an hour in just to park right by Fenway, and then they can sell that spot for a lot? They're kind of changing the rules of the game a little bit, right?
Well, Haystack isn't changing the rules of the game. It's just making a really bad game a little bit easier and simpler. And Haystack is only an option. It's an option for neighbors. And by the way, a lot of folks have smartphones today, and cities all across the country and in the world are experimenting with different ways using smartphone technology that gives advantages to those who do have a smartphone, including the city of Boston, by the way. So, we don't view it as any unfair advantage. If anything, it's helping increase access to public parking, helping people know where these spots are, and before there was no solution to do that.
What do you think about critics that also talk about distracted driving? Do you think that could be an issue? I'm so frustrated after driving and looking for a spot for 10 minutes, and then I'm looking at your app, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, that concern is a stretch, and we certainly heard our earful of that from city councilors. But you have to compare it to the current system that's used for finding a street spot. Currently, we have all sorts of clever ways to try to identify if someone's about to leave a spot. Seeing if someone has tapped the brakes, seeing if someone has keys jingling. People are rubbernecking left and right. It's incredibly unsafe. Haystack is much safer than that, and on top of that, we've designed a pretty elegant and sophisticated one-touch solution that matches users based on an advanced advanced algorithms, so it's as simple and easy to use as a GPS. So, you know, those hypothetical concerns are unfounded.
Okay, so you have suspended service in Boston, but what's next for you? How are you going to try and keep working in Boston? Are you going to go to other cities? What's your plan?
Well, you know, parking is a huge issue, and this is something that we can't have any hostility towards. You know, we need to work together on a collaborative basis to find a solution that can work. And so we've offered several times, and we continue to offer, to work with the City of Boston. We'd love to work with the Office of New Urban Mechanics to find an approach that they can get behind and can support. So that's what we'd like to focus on. And right now, Jen, we're focused on building up our parking community as strong as we can.
All right, Eric Meyer is the CEO of Haystack Mobile Technologies, joining us from San Francisco.
Thank you.
Well, we are going to get the other side of the story right now as well. We are now going to be joined by Matt O'Malley. He's a city councilor in Boston. He is a co-sponsor of the ordinance that effectively bans apps like Haystack. So, you know, Eric and you agree on one thing. Parking in Boston is a really big problem, and I know because I've been there, and it's a real pain. So couldn't technology make this easier?
It absolutely could, Jen. And first of all, thank you for having us on tonight to discuss this issue. You know, we should celebrate and value the innovation technology. As an elected official, I support it. I want to see it grow. As an individual, I'm a consumer, and I take advantage of it. The difference between some of these new apps and new ways that we've looked at business models is that something like Uber or Lyft or Airbnb, we're talking about private individuals, a private business transaction with private property or private service. My contention with Haystack is that you've got a private individual taking advantage of and making money of a public utility, a public street, a parking spot.
If no one made money off it, would it be okay if everybody were just, you know, alerting people that were near them that there was a spot? Would that be fine?
I think theoretically, and that may be a way that we could go, I think there is still some inherent unfairness if someone doesn't have a smartphone, doesn't have that technological capability to do so, then it certainly could create issues. One suggestion I had for Eric is to look at some private parking garages. Perhaps there's a conversation to be had about when during peak times or certain events that spaces could open up and the prices could fluctuate. Moreover, if someone wanted to rent out their driveway in their home, in a private
There's an app for that, Matt. Somebody already has an app for that, the driveway one.
That's terrific.
We're too late to the game.
That's the innovation we should celebrate.
One thing, though, you know, in the piece, we just looked at how bad parking is and that cities mismanage it all the time. Is there something that you guys can do in city government to make it better? Should there be surge pricing on meters? Are there other things that people are thinking of?
I think that's certainly that's something that I'm open to. You know, one thing that our former Mayor Tom Menino, and our current Mayor Martin Walsh have taken advantage of is the Office of New Urban Mechanics. A week ago, there was a hackathon. I mean, we really are embracing technology and figuring out these problems. We have one of the most widely used apps to deal with constituent services. But it's part of a larger conversation that we should be having. And Boston has a great, thriving bike share program. Obviously, we need to do more with the MBTA, the nation's oldest public transit system, to get more people using that and really look at ways that we can have multimodal modes of transportation and capability for everyone. So, you're right, parking is an issue in the city of Boston, just like every city, major city across the globe.
So you're not anti-innovation?
No, I'm anti-dumb innovation, and with due respect to Eric, that's what I see this, and that's why I was proud to support my colleague Frank Baker, who introduced this ordinance. We voted unanimously on it yesterday. We welcome innovation to deal with parking, but you cannot profit, or you ought not profit, on a public resource like a roadway or a parking spot for private personal gain.
All right, Matt O'Malley, Boston City Councilor. Hopefully you and Eric can figure something out here. Thanks so much.
Thanks.